Hi, this is Corey Johnston, and today's lesson is going to begin in the 7th verse of Luke's 21st chapter. We're going to try and make it all the way up to the 36th chapter, which includes the Mount Olivet discourse, so named in reference to where it was uttered, and the parallel accounts can be found in Matthew 24 and Mark 13. We already did Mark 13, but we opened it from the beginning, and we're going to skip that portion and just say that the destruction of the temple was a prophecy that he offered, which would come to pass in most of their lifetimes, 40 years hence. And it was a calamitous event. And then what he offers after is the end times, which are somewhat alive and well in every age, but growing in intensity as we near the actualization of the end times. And there are certain things that Luke says that Mark leaves out. So that being said, we're going to hop right to it. So the 7th verse reads, "And they asked him, saying, Teacher, but when shall this be? And what is the sign when this is about to take place?" So the they is the apostles, known as the disciples in the Gospels, but soon to be elevated to the apostles. And they are the 12, the most intimate followers of the Master. They minister in mutual proximity to him. And their question is the same question which would be asked in any age if he still walked among us. And he said, "See that you are not led astray, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am, and the time is near. Then do not go after them." So therein we read that many are going to claim to actually be him, and they're going to come with many false signs and false prophets, but great miracles. So they're going to wield wonders, which will, if we, as we will read, deceive, if possible, the very elect. So we who are secure in our salvation as we stand have to have this knowledge for when it does come, because we cannot be suckered by the mere performance of miracles. That's what's going to take the deception of the elect. But when you hear of fightings and unrest, do not be alarmed, for these have to take place first, but the end is not immediately. So all the calamitous events unfold according to an order, and so the acceleration of war and rumors of war, and this is the natural course of action which must come to place. It's going to be a powder keg which is eventually going to explode into the rise of the anti-Messiah, who will rise and rule for a period of 7 years, the first 3.5 of which are going to be marked by tremendous natural wonders, and then the final 3 years, which we're going to get to, marked by heavenly wonders. Then he said to them, "Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdoms against kingdoms." So the geopolitical turmoil will come and go as it has always gone. It will chug full steam ahead into a one-world government, which is something we are to be watchful for, because there are forces currently in motion clamoring for this eventuality, which is the platform we are blessed to know the anti-Messiah will rise and rule. "And then there shall be great earthquakes in various places, and famines, and deadly and pestilences, and there shall be terrors, and great signs from the heavens, and there shall be great tempest." So all of these signs from heavens, they point to that the end is near, and it is coming. Human history is coming to its consummation, and it's going to get worse before it gets a lot better as we endure the path. So we do have to go over a hurdle of wars and rumors of wars and famines and pestilences, which are going to test us like we've never been tested before. And this may not come to pass in our generation, but we really have to prepare for it. And I think a lot of the original church has lost the spark. The apostles lived with the expectation that he would return in their own lifetime, so they were always working, always watching, and always waiting, and always witnessing for the arrival of the kingdom. Sadly, much of that fire has dissipated since then, but I think that's something we need to bring back as a church. "But before this they shall lay your hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the congregations and prisons, and be brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake." So you're going to be imprisoned and dragged to prison, all for professing the faith. So this is marked, the church is marked for the anti-Messiah's designs, we read. And but before every ruling principality we come before is an opportunity to witness, and that way take the good news to the ends of the earth. And it shall turn out to you for a witness. Therefore, resolve in your hearts not to premeditate on what to answer. So even though preparation is generally good, he advises them here to take no thought of what they're going to say in advance of when they find themselves before the rulers of these Gentile nations, and the assurance is going to be that the Ruach Kodesh will visit them in that moment and say everything that Yahweh wills them to say. For I shall give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to refute or resist. So he gives it through the Spirit, but the Spirit is not mentioned in Luke's account, but it is the equivalence of his power, and we speak in it, and we can wield it. And before its counsel, no reasonable man can resist or offer any rebuttal. And you shall be hated by all because of my name. So we're not hated because we're obnoxious. We're not hated because we do anything. We're hated because we are something. We are Christians. We are the church of the one who is going to come to scoop up his bride at the final day, and we will be in the midst of persecution when that moment comes. But not a hair on your head shall be lost at all. So that is encouraging if you have lost hair in this life, but all joking aside, it's a mark of knowing to who we belong. So he knows us perfectly and totally. He's not going to forget even a hair on our head as we pass in this life to the next. Possess your lives by your endurance. So endurance is called, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So the Christian job is a 365-day a year, 24/7 an hour day gig, and there are tons of challenges that go as we embark on the destiny, which culminates in a culmination of our own lives, at which point we pass over to the next and we answer for the life we have lived. And when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its laying waste is near. So this is a future destruction of Jerusalem. Jerusalem would already be laid waste once more in the year 70 A.D., but in the final times, the final days, it will be laid waste once more, and Jerusalem, the nation of Israel, which surrounds it, and it's the capital of, is in a very precarious position, being surrounded by hostile nations which refuse to recognize it diplomatically and to various extents seek their elimination. But we're going to return to the text. Then let those in Judah flee to the mountains, and let those who are in the midst of her go out, and let not those who are in the field enter her. So this, when it comes, they will know it comes, and they will try and flee, and they will run, but they cannot run for long, and they cannot hope to hide from the one whose coming is swift and sudden. Because these are the days of vengeance, and fill all that have been written. So the days of vengeance are sealed in the writings of Scripture, that the Messiah will return in a day of vengeance, and that is when he will fulfill the conquering king, which so many who missed out on him in his own arrival because he didn't fit their expectations would witness and be on the terror end of his flaming sword. And woe to those who are pregnant and those who are nursing children in those days, for there shall be great distress in the earth, and wrath upon this people. So the judgment is going to be total. It's going to be global, world scale, worldwide. In a moment in time, it's going to come in an hour, and for us, it's going to be a twinkling of an eye. But there's going to be challenges, and Luke is not writing to a primarily Jewish audience. Matthew's account is longer. That's why we elected to do Luke's, because he references woe to them who are nursing or on the Sabbath, because the Jews weren't allowed to travel more than 1.5 miles outside of their own home, according to a Sabbath day's journey. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trampled underfoot by the Gentiles, until the time of the Gentiles are filled. So the time of Gentiles began in 586 BM. Ever since then, Israel has until 1948 ceased to exist as independent political sovereignty, and it's been exchanged by hands of foreign oppressors since. For it's been the historical norm for them since then, but all that's going to come to an end. The end of the Gentiles. They're going to sack the sacred city once more and desecrate it, and bring the wrathful judgment of the one to whose people are chosen to be called his. And there shall be signs in the sun, in moons and stars, and on the earth, anxiety of nations, and bewilderment at the roaring of the sea, and agitations. So there's going to be natural portents and omens and disasters and calamities which are going to break in the end times, and we are witnessing an acceleration of that when we witness the statistics of hurricanes and natural disasters in the 20th century alone versus all the centuries which came before them. There's really been never been anything like it. So we do have to keep in mind on the warnings of the times, which he alludes to earlier in this discourse and throughout it and in other places. Men fainting from fear and the hope of what is coming on the earth, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken. So this is going to be a destabilized moment, so much so that the powers of the heaven by which the earth and the planets rotate and move are going to be sunken and going to be shaken. And then they shall see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and much esteem. So the false prophets who pointed to the false messiahs said, go over there, he's over here. But they will know that the lightning is going to be from the east to the west. It's going to be no mistaking, no bones about it when he does arrive as he promised. And this is the expectation we long for. And they shall, and when they begin to take place, look up and lift up your hearts, because your redemption draws near. So this is a sight which is a welcome spectacle to those who have prepared for it and who are watching, working, witnessing, and waiting for it. Now we are not to wait exclusively. We are not to be content to rely on the promise and passively accept the providential overworkings in our life. We got to bring the kingdom to the earth in as much as we can, even before its literal arrival. We have to always be working, always be working towards that, and to be waiting and longing for it at the same time. But we cannot lose speed or slow down gears while we are bringing its arrival on earth. And he spoke, and we're actually gonna, and he spoke a parable to them. Look at the fig tree and at all the trees. When they have already budded, observing it, you shall know for yourself that summer is now near. So he's pointing to a relatable object by which they could assess the season of the year. Now, we do not know the day or the hour that this will come, but we do know the season, and we are very much living in some of the symptoms at least described earlier. So the season is upon us. The day, I believe the day is short and the hour is near when we will walk into the tribulation and all that entails. So you also, when you see these take place, know that the kingdom of Elohim is near. So we have our reliable witness and sure foundation that when we watch these things and when we witness these things, that the kingdom, the blessed expectation, is just around the horizon and waiting to come to the earth and spring its blossom. Truly I say to you that this generation shall by no means pass away till all shall have taken place. Now this is one of the statements that the critics and naysayers like to point to as an alleged loop in the scripture, but everything that he promises can come to pass, ergo we must exercise faith that he was writing to the generation which was reading it, and because we don't know the hours or the times when the tribulation will come, and after that. And take heed to yourselves, lest your heart be weighed down by gluttony and drunkenness and worries of this life, and that day comes on you suddenly. So when you get trapped in the world and its ways and get stuck in the patterns of worldly people attending to their physical welfare as they see it, but gluttony clearly doesn't do that. It doesn't make one a physically or spiritually better person. Neither does drunkenness. And worry is identified as sinful in Matthew's 6th chapter because it distracts us from the kingdom. So when we have the kingdom in our heart, we will not be worried, even as the world around us goes asunder according to the prophecy, because we will know the prophecy, and we'll know that these are birth pangs and that this too must come to pass. Watch then at all times, and pray that you be counted worthy to escape all this about to take place, and to stand before the Son of Man. So that's quite the incentive to be watch and wait, and to have the mindfulness as this unfolds with the preparation. We won't be prone to fear. We won't lose sight of why this comes to pass. We will embrace it, and we will seize it, and that will be that, and that will be our history and eternally so. So that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here. See you soon. Bye-bye.